Welcome to the AEN Stories channel.
I turned 46 this summer. My son decided to stop saving the adults from themselves. If you'd asked me a year earlier what our family looked like, I'd have pointed to the photo on our mantle from Lily's 9th birthday, balloons taped crooked over the doorway, my wife Jenna in a paper crown, Evan on one knee helping his sister aim a candle lighter like a rocket launcher. The picture has a soft blur that makes us look nicer than we were. Maybe that's what photographs are for. We live in a split level on a street that believes in cul-de-sacs and lawn care. I manage a flooring showroom off the highway, boxes of engineered hardwood and sales that hinge on convincing people their houses will feel like a life upgrade if they pick warm hickory over sunset oak. Jenna works part-time at a pediatric dentist's office and runs the calendar like a dispatch center. Evan's 17, varsity soccer, APU. History, a habit of pretending everything is fine. Lily is 9, a glitter comet who speaks fluent stuffed animal. The day Evan came home early, I was at work arguing with a contractor about delivery windows. I don't know he was home until much later. What I know now came to me in a series of small squares on a cracked phone screen, like someone handing me a mosaic with a picture I had no desire to see. It was a half day at his school for teacher in service. Jenna didn't know. She'd texted him earlier, "Pick up Lily? I'll be late." Staff meeting ran over. He let himself in, quiet, he said, because he liked catching the house off guard. The house was not alone. He heard voices. He went still and then he moved, and then he did something I still haven't decided how to feel about. He lifted his phone and hit record. He told me later he hated himself for it. He told me he thought, if I don't show Dad, he'll never believe me. If I do show Dad, I'll break his heart. He did it anyway. He's 17. Brains are still under construction at 17, but sometimes they're also the most moral thing in your house. He didn't tell me that day. He didn't tell me for weeks. He stared at the ceiling at night and typed and deleted a dozen versions of the same text to me and Jenna, then saved none of them. He carried the knowledge like a hot bowl and didn't know where to put it down. I didn't know this yet. I knew Jenna had become more careful about her phone. I knew sometimes she went for walks that lasted a few minutes longer than a loop around the block should take. I knew that when I asked who was that? About an unknown number flashing on her screen, she said work. I believed her because it was easier. I've learned something late, a lot of our faith in people is just a kindness we extend to ourselves. Evan told me the first part the night of my parents' 40th anniversary dinner. I'd taken them to a quiet Italian place that still believes in red checkered tablecloths. We were driving home, Jenna had taken Lily in her car, and Evan rode with me. The road was a low river of orange cones. He sat beside me, thumbs on his knees the way he sits before a penalty kick. "Dad," he said, voice not yet a man's but getting there. "Can I ask you something and you won't get mad?" "I can try," I said. "Is it possible to tell the truth and still be wrong?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "All the time." He nodded once, like a judge granting a request. "Okay." I thought it was about school, about a friend, about something that would eventually be a story we told with a wince and a laugh. When we pulled into the driveway, he didn't get out right away. He looked at his phone like it had gravity. Then he put it back in his pocket and said, "Never mind." The next big thing came on a Saturday in September when Jenna's parents hosted what they call the whole circus. Her cousins, their kids, an uncle who talks too loud about football, the works. They do it twice a year. The day feels like a fair with better cutlery. Jenna loves those afternoons. She becomes the version of herself that floats, topping off lemonade, tilting her head just so when she laughs, her hand on her father's shoulder for no reason except muscle memory. Evan didn't want to go. He said he had a study group. Jenna said, "Bring them after." He said, "It's a push, Mom, not chips and salsa." She said, "Don't make me be the bad guy." I stepped in because that's what I do, I manage expectations for a living. "Come for an hour," I told him. "Eat a burger. Then go." He said okay in the way teenagers say fine and mean I will survive this, and you will owe me. We got there and the day was the day, kids in the yard, smoke from the grill making the sky look like a memory, Jenna's mother arranging condiments with military gravity. Jenna's father gave me a beer and a look that said, I love you and I also want to know what you're not saying. He's not a man of many words. His silences are maps. Evan stood with me for a while by the grill, then drifted to the patio, then disappeared into the house. I didn't think anything of it until I didn't see him for 10 minutes. I found him in the den, not hiding, exactly, composed. He held his phone like a confession. He looked at me and then at the room like he was calculating escape routes for everyone. "Dad," he said, voice steady enough to be dangerous, "I can't carry this anymore." "What is it?" I asked. He didn't answer. He walked back to the patio and climbed 2 steps so he stood a little above us, a kid finding a stage because the adults had made sure there wasn't a podium. He cleared his throat. Conversations dimmed, not because anyone told them to but because bodies understand when air changes. Jenna saw him, smiled like he was about to do something charming, the way he used to when he was 8 and would balance a grape on his nose. "Evan?" she said, a warning disguised as a caress. He didn't look at her. He looked at me. He looked at Lily, who was playing with a cousin on the grass, building a fortress out of plastic ponies. He looked at Jenna's parents. He looked at her cousins. Then he looked at his screen and read. At first I didn't understand. His voice was newscaster flat, syllables clipped, as he read a text thread, timestamps, heart emojis, abbreviations I didn't need explained. "Miss you already. That thing you do with your hands. Park around the corner. Don't text on my home Wi-Fi." He stopped, scrolled, continued, like a court reporter, like a priest, like a boy who had given the adults 100 chances to save themselves and found them wanting. It took the room a moment. The laughter faltered. The conversations became questions. The questions became comprehension. People looked at Jenna and then looked away. Her mother's hand flew to her mouth. Her father set his beer down carefully on the railing as if it were a bomb that might go off if he jostled it. Jenna stepped forward, palm out, as if she could push the air back into his mouth. "Evan, stop," she said, her voice ragged. He did not stop. He read one more exchange, and this one had a photo attached, not that kind of photo, but a selfie that made the context undeniable. Jenna in the passenger seat of a car that was not ours, a half smile that was not mine. He stopped then, not because she had asked, but because he had reached the part he could not say aloud without becoming a person he didn't want to be. He lowered the phone. "I'm so tired," he said. His voice broke and mended itself in the space of a word. "I'm so tired of pretending I don't know." Silence is a living thing at gatherings. It crawls along the deck boards and sits on lawn chairs and perches on the edge of paper plates. For a second I saw every face as if I had been given a God's cruel gift. Then the scene moved. Jenna's mother shot forward like a rescue vehicle. "How dare you," she said to Evan, and I will never forget that, to Evan. "You don't do this to your family. You don't humiliate your mother." "Mom," Jenna's father said, a low warning he only uses when the stakes are knives. "Don't mom me," she snapped at him without turning. Then to Evan again, "You are a child. A child doesn't read his mother's private messages out loud." He stood there, every inch of his 17 years, and didn't flinch. "Then she shouldn't have sent them," he said. "I'm not the liar." Jenna tried to say something. She didn't get far. Her mouth opened and then closed like a fish pulled into air. She was pale in a way that looked like a different person had put on her face. She looked at me. I looked back because I'm not a man who knows how to look away when a truck has already hit. Jenna's father moved then. He stepped between his wife and his grandson with an ease that comes from a life spent building things you want to stand. He put a hand on Evan's shoulder. "Okay," he said, to the boy. Then he turned to me. "I'm sorry." 2 words, heavy as a door. Jenna's mother wasn't done. She pivoted to me. "You're the adult," she hissed in a stage whisper that wasn't a whisper. "You let him." "I didn't let him anything," I said, calm because rage would be small and these were my children's ears. "He decided to stop being the only person telling the truth." She blanched, then rallied. "We don't air dirty laundry." I said a sentence I didn't plan but had apparently been carrying in my ribcage. "We've been wearing it." The patio lost shape then. People moved the way flocks do, all at once and with different intentions. Someone took Lily inside. Jenna's cousins found reasons to be near the gate. Kyle, no, wrong family, I corrected myself. We weren't the last story. Jenna's brother wasn't here, he lives out of state. There was no other adult with a similar age to pull this load with me. That felt like a structural flaw you only notice when the house has already shifted. Evan stepped down. He walked past his mother without looking at her and came to me. He handed me his phone. I didn't want to take it. I did. My hand shook. I didn't open anything. I didn't need to. He'd given me proof, but all I felt was the loss of the boy who used to hand me Lego manuals and trust me to build. "We're leaving," I said to no one and everyone. "We're leaving now." I looked for Lily and found her in the kitchen with a cousin's mother, coloring a horse blue, oblivious in the blessed way 9-year-olds can be for 10 seconds at a time. "We're going home, Lil," I said gently. "Can I bring my picture?" she asked. "Of course." Jenna came in then, a ghost with mascara. She reached for Lily and Lily sidestepped, instinct or accident, I can't say. Jenna's eyes did something that made me wish we had married 30 people so all of them could be held when they broke. Then I remembered the photo on Evan's phone and wished for steel instead. In the doorway, Jenna's father met us. He hugged Evan hard, then me, then Lily in a quick squeeze that smelled like sawdust and Old Spice. "Call me if you need anything," he said, and I believed him because he's a man who only says what he intends to do. Jenna's mother stood behind him, arms crossed, mouth a thin line, eyes bright with a fury that looked like love turned into a weapon. She didn't reach for anyone. She didn't say goodbye. At home, the house inhaled us. I sent Lily to her room with the promise of ice cream and a movie later. I told Evan to sit at the table. I poured water we didn't drink. Jenna arrived 10 minutes later. She didn't knock. This is still her house. She stood, didn't sit, put her hands on the back of a chair the way you hold on a ferry when you start to feel sick. "Evan," she said, and her voice had become a rope, frayed in places, still trying to hold. "I understand that you're hurt. But what you did?" "What I did was tell the truth," he said. "You asked me to lie by being quiet. I don't want to anymore." "I am your mother," she said, the words brittle as old glass. "And I'm your son," he said. "You made me guard your secret. I'm not doing it." He looked at me, bracing for a correction that didn't come. "I'm not." "Mark," Jenna said, turning to me like I was an umpire. "Are you really going to let—" "I'm not letting him do anything," I said. "He's telling us who he intends to be." I looked at Evan and then at Jenna. "And he's telling us who we were asking him to be. That's on us." She sat then, finally, the chair creaking under choices. "It's over," she said. "I ended it. Weeks ago." She didn't say sorry. She looked like someone who has been speaking apology in her head for so long the syllables no longer have meaning. "How long?" I asked. The question men think will help. "Months," she said. "Not a year." "Who?" I asked, because pain wants a face to assign itself to. "It doesn't matter," she said quickly. "It does to me," I said. "If he's going to show up at our games and smile like a neighbor. If Lily's going to say hi to him at Target." "He's not in our circle," she said. "He's gone." Evan pushed the phone across the table toward her. "I'm deleting it," he said. "I don't want to be a person who keeps this." She nodded like a woman reprieved from a sentence of 1,000 cuts. He unlocked it, erased the thread, then handed the phone to me. "Keep it," he said. "So I don't go back and try to be the guy who catches things." I slid the phone across to Jenna. "It's yours," I said. "It always was." We made rules because rules are how people pretend to control fires. No more meeting alone, no more secrets, counseling starting Monday at 3, Lily stays out of adult conversations, Evan doesn't have to see anyone he doesn't want to. We set them not because rules heal. Because they keep hands busy while hearts figure out whether to start again. The days after were a gray weather map in my head. Evan refused to speak to Jenna for 5 days. He answered yes and no and I meeting at Ryan's. On day 6 he said, "Can you pick me up?" And she did, and they drove home in a silence that at least shared an oxygen supply. On day 7 he told her the bench players group chat nickname for the starting striker, And she laughed in spite of herself, and called him a mean kid, and he said you raised me, and she said I did, and then they both stared out the windshield like two people learning a new language without subtitles. Lily asked simple questions at complex times. Do we still go to Grandma's Friday? Did Aunt Sarah know? Is Mom in trouble? I became an expert at answers that told the truth without giving her the adult's burden. We're making a new plan. We're figuring it out. Mom and I are the ones in trouble with each other, not you. When she cried at night, it was over small things, a broken headband, a friend who sat with someone else at lunch. I sat on the carpet by her bed and rubbed her back and thought, the body is kind, it lets the grief come at a size it can hold. Jenna's parents split themselves along the most painful fault line. Her father became an ally, quiet and practical. He came by one afternoon with a new deadbolt because I'd mentioned ours stuck, and while he installed it, he said, "You tell me what you need, all right?" And I nodded and then had to go to the garage to breathe. Her mother called 3 times a day for a week. I answered once. She opened with "We need to talk about what Evan did," and I said we are not doing that, and she said he humiliated his mother, and I said he saved his father, and she hung up, and I didn't call back. Counseling began and it turned out to be fluorescent lights and a woman with a pen and a box of tissues. Jenna said lonely and small and then said selfish and wrong before the counselor could. I said tired and blind and angry and then said not surprised in a way that surprised me. The counselor asked us to write down 3 times this week we felt like teammates. The first week we had won, we remembered to sign Lily's permission slip on time. We celebrated like idiots. That's how repair looks at the beginning, praise for not being worse. Evan met with the school counselor at my insistence and came home unimpressed. She asked me how that made me feel, he said. I told her it made me feel like adults need me to teach them how to be honest. You're not wrong, I said. I'm also not a hero, he said. I just didn't want to throw up every time Mom looked at me. You're not a hero, I said. You're my kid. It felt like a promotion. We told Jenna she could stay in the house. I moved to the guest room for a while. I told myself it was for the kids. It was also for me. There is a kindness in physical distance when your heart cannot figure out how to be a good neighbor. We did the dance, breakfasts, drop-offs, the exchanging of calendars and who's got Lily at piano? Like diplomats whose countries share a river and a border dispute. Word got around because it's a suburb and secrets are a kind of currency we pay one another with. Men I barely know stopped me at the field and clapped me on the shoulder with a look that said I heard and I'm sorry and I'm glad it isn't me all at once. Women were kinder, they asked nothing, they caught my eye and nodded, the small bow you give the newly bereaved. It felt like a funeral for a version of my life. People brought casseroles. People always bring casseroles. You can fill a hole with lasagna for exactly one evening. The night before Evan's first playoff game, he knocked on the guest room door. You awake? He asked, rhetorical. Yep. He sat on the edge of the bed. You mad I did it like that? He asked. At Grandma's? I thought about telling him what a better parent would say, that there are proper venues, that we don't make scenes, that privacy matters. I thought about the weeks he held it alone so the rest of us wouldn't have to know. I thought about the text message notifications still occasionally popping up on my phantom memory. I wish the world didn't require you to do it like that, I said. I wish I had noticed so you didn't have to carry it. He nodded. Me too. You were brave, I said, and he shook his head. I was done, he said. Sometimes done looks like brave. At the game next night, he scored on a header and didn't celebrate, just jogged back with his head down, a soldier in a film playing out in different colors. Lily screamed like an air raid siren in pink leggings. Jenna stood 2 rows behind me. Her father stood between us like a bridge that knew better than to expect cars to make it across right away. We are not resolved. I don't know what the word resolved looks like on a mortgage and a minivan and a kitchen calendar that still says Mark, replace water filter. Jenna and I sit on the couch some nights and watch a show where people buy houses they can afford, and we make fun of their backsplash choices, and I wonder if we are making fun of ourselves. Some nights we talk about the thing in the middle of the room. She says I'm sorry and I say I know, and sometimes we walk separate ways down the hall and sometimes we don't. I don't know if we will stay married. I know we are still a family, which is less sentimental than it sounds. It just means we haven't given up on showing up for the same people. Last week, Lily asked if we could paint her room. Not baby colors, she said. Evan and I taped off the baseboards while Jenna spread drop cloths. We picked a color called river glass that looked different in every light. By the second coat, we had paint in our hair and on the cat. Lily made a playlist that whiplashed from Taylor Swift to the Mario theme. Jenna's father came by and installed a new curtain rod like a miracle. Jenna's mother drove past slowly, the way people do when they're not ready to come in. She waved. Lily waved back. That was enough for that day. On Sunday we went to the park. Evan kicked a ball with Lily and didn't take it easy on her because he respects her too much for that. Jenna and I sat on a splintered bench, not touching, not touching. A kid nearby released a red balloon and cried like the sky had stolen something. His mother said, "It's okay, we still have us," and he didn't believe her yet, which is fair. Sometimes the hardest part of being alive is believing the US when the balloon is halfway to the moon. That night Evan came into the kitchen while I was chopping onions and said, "I sent Grandma a text. I told her I love her but she can't talk about Mom that way around me." He showed me his phone like a judge and asked for evidence. The screen said, "I love you. I'm not the villain. Please stop calling me that." Her reply was a long paragraph that started with "I just want the best" and ended with "I'll try." It will do for now. People say kids shouldn't be the moral center of a story. They're right. We failed him that way. He took the position anyway because the seat was vacant. I don't know if that makes him a hero or just a boy who refused a job he never applied for and then did it until the adults could take it back. Either way, when I look at him now, I see the man he is making. He is building himself out of the truth, which is heavier than drywall and stronger too. On my way to work this morning, I passed a house with a dumpster in the driveway and a man throwing old cabinets into it, the quick arc of trashing something you once loved. He looked tired and satisfied. I thought, some things you replace. Some you refinish. Some you live with as they are and call the scars character. I don't know which we are yet. I only know there is still coffee in the pot when I come down, and lunches to pack, and socks to match, and a 9-year-old's math to check, and a 17-year-old's essay to proofread, and that when I tell Evan good night, he says "Night, Dad," like he means the word the way I need to hear it. I put the mantle photo back on the shelf, Jenna's paper crown, Lily's grin, Evan's arm around his sister, me behind the cake holding a match. We don't look like that anymore. But we looked like it once, and there's a version of us that might, carefully, stubbornly, learn to look like something true again. If we do, it won't be because we pretended. It'll be because a kid stood on a patio and read the words we didn't want to hear, and then we decided to become the kind of people who say them out loud before someone else has to. Thank you for listening my story. If you want more raw, real, and gripping stories like this one, subscribe to the AEN Stories channel. Your support keeps these stories alive.